Heritage International Headquarters in Fort Mill, South Carolina. This is Prophetic Perspectives on Current Events with Rick Joyner.
Welcome to Prophetic Perspectives on Current Events, and this is the, still the new year as far as I'm concerned. It's January, and pray that all of you are having the best year you've ever had, and that this will be the best year you have ever had yet. But they keep getting better too. That's the nature of the walk that we're on. The path of the righteous gets brighter and brighter until the full day, it says. So every year should be better for us. And just like say this about 2014, most years we get to New Year's, it's good riddance to that past year and glad there's a new one coming. But I didn't feel that way. I was really sorry to see 2014 go. It was one of the best years of my life and just seemed to be getting better. But I do believe that 2015 is going to be a great year for God's people. It's just going to be an amazing year. And I know in the world we have crises, and the way the Lord put it, he said, in the world you have tribulation, but fear not. He has overcome the world, and we have him. He is our king. He's the one we're following. But we do want to address the current events, and also our response to them. And today I'm going to share with you a dream that I had, the most recent dream about what I call the hordes of hell that were coming over our U.S. southern border. I had a dream last year that I shared, and it seemed to go everywhere. And this, just a week or a little over a week ago, I had another one. When I shared the last one, I shared it the next day. I was still so energized by that dream. And really, in a lot of ways, still in, almost shock by some of it. It was one of the most graphic dreams I've ever had. This one was even more so. But I waited a week to do this program. So I didn't want that, extra energy, or I wanted to just share it with you straightforwardly. It was actually more graphic than the last one. It seemed even more real. It was like I was there. I was observing these things from being there. It was not the kind of dream I want to have, but it ended with a great victory and great encouragement. And so I'm going to share this with you, but I did again see this terrible demonic army that was crossing our U.S. southern border. And it had advanced further than in my last dream. It was well up into the border states. It was, some of them, it may have even included those whole states. But it had advanced a long ways. And this evil, I felt like, was the spirit of Apollon that is named in the book of Revelation, which really means the destroyer. And that was the spirit that was gripping, I believe, and controlling these people. And there was a spirit of destruction on them where they absolutely had to destroy anything of value, anything of beauty, and all the life that they could. They were just indiscriminately killing cattle, killing everything. They were just the destroyer. It was the spirit of that destroyer that it speaks about in the book of Revelation, I believe. And but everything behind them was a wasteland. Everything. And I'm not going to share all the graphic details, but I was able to go and walk around in their camps, in their communities. And, it's like I was unseen, like they couldn't see me. But I could see them and hear all their conversations. And I do believe that what I saw was real. But they couldn't see me. But at the end, I think the spirit that was over them discerned that I was there. And this is a part of the revelation we've got to understand too. But they had so consumed everything in their path that they were reduced to cannibalism. And I don't know why, if The resistance had stopped them where they were, and they couldn't go any further to keep consuming the land, but they were just starting to consume one another and consume. I mean, it was a terrible thing. I don't want to get into any more detail than that. But I also saw that everyone in this camp hated everybody else in the camp as much as they did Americans or America or anything else. They were just full of hatred. And they didn't trust each other. They were all paranoid. It's like all of them seemed to know that at any time, the rest of them could turn on them and kill them just as easily. And so there was this terrible fear and paranoia on everyone. Now, there were some couples that I assume were married couples that were part of this horde that hated each other and feared each other as much as everyone else. I felt like there was zero affection, friendship, or anything else in this whole camp. Now, I believe we're going to see that kind of thing come on, the nature of destroying hordes, whether it's ISIS taking over parts of Syria and Iraq or anything else. But when they start imploding, it's going to be like nothing, no kind of hell you could ever imagine or describe. And just, I believe it's probably becoming that way right now in those camps, where they're just all afraid of each other, afraid if they get just a little bit out of step with the others, or even perceived to be, that they'll be turned on and destroyed. But there was this terrible fear and paranoia. And, thank the Lord, we are going to see his army coming forth at the same time. There's a very different spirit. I believe at the same time, when the enemy comes in like a flood, the Lord's going to raise up a standard against him. Now, I believe to the degree that there was fear and hatred and everything else in this camp, you're going to see love and faith coming forth in God's people in his camp. And at the end of this dream, I saw that ultimate victory of the Lord's people, of the army of the Lord. And but I did see this, I'm describing the character and the nature of those. And I do believe, because I keep seeing this specifically coming across our southern U.S. border, that this is something we're going to be facing as a nation. But in this dream, near the end of the dream, it's like all of a sudden, the people couldn't see me, nothing, but all of a sudden it's like this evil spirit that was controlling them discerned that I was there and tried to tempt me to become a part of them. And there was, zero temptation on my part. It's like, there is no way, there's absolutely nothing here that could tempt me to in any way compromise. And my place in the Lord, it wasn't much of a temptation. I mean, there was just no way. And I felt that in this dream, like, are you crazy? There's, that. And it was then that I heard these marching feet behind me. I felt like I'd heard them before. I felt like in the first part of the dream where I saw the hordes of hell that I wrote about in the final quest, that evil army that was coming, I felt like I heard those same marching feet, and I turned around expecting to see that same evil horde coming up behind me, but it was a spiritual army, and it was the army of the Lord. Now, it wasn't, I say a spiritual army, it was an angelic army. Now, they came and destroyed the evil horde. Somehow they were released when I rejected the temptation. I don't understand it more than that, but I know that's true in the dream. Somehow it was like a test. If I couldn't fall to any of this, then God could release his army. And they came and they completely wiped out the evil horde. They did it without vengeance. They weren't even angry. God's army was not even angry. They knew it was just something that had to be done. These that were a part of that evil horde were incorrigible. They had crossed the line. They could not be redeemed or anything. They had to be destroyed. But God's army, it was not like they were taking any pleasure or any vengeance or anything. They were just doing their job. And now this summer, when I had some of the closest encounters I've ever had with the Lord, and I was trying to discuss everything I could think of with him. It was like, while we have this chance to talk like this, I'm going to bring it. And, a major thing with our ministry has been this lawsuit we have with the county over one of the buildings, a high-rise building that we've been seeking to restore for a long time. And anyway, it came down to, we went through mediation. We did everything we possibly could, and nothing worked out. So we finally had to file suit against our county. And I was, I've always felt like that it was really terrible what was done to us by the county. It would be terrible to be done to anybody, but it seemed to be specifically directed at us because we were Christians and, things like that. And I felt like, like Paul the Apostle had to appeal to Caesar, which he was really suing for justice to, from his nation to Caesar. I felt like, the time came, we felt very clear this is the only thing we can do now. We've got to appeal and file a suit for justice in this case. And I have to admit, I was wanting to get even. And I felt like through the discovery in the case and everything, we were able to confirm some of the reasons why some things were done to us. And it was like, oh, we've got all the evidence now and everything. And I just couldn't wait to get there. And now I was just sharing with the Lord, isn't it time for us to have a breakthrough and be able to finish this this tower building and get over this situation with our local county? And the Lord just said, he said he had no vengeance in his heart. He had no revenge. He said he's not going to come back and smite the nations because he's trying to get even or he's angry. He does what has to be done. It's kind of like those angels in this dream. There was no vengeance in them. It wasn't wrath of that type or anger. It had to be done. And the Lord said, if I was going to abide in him, I could not have any revenge, any vengeance in my heart. And I was really convicted. I knew that was true, and I said, that's not right. Shouldn't have that. I believe we have to go ahead with the case because it has to be done for many reasons. But I said, I can't go in there just wanting to in any way hurt them or expose them or reveal the evil or anything else. I just want justice. And if anything else, let this be a redemptive case. And, I don't want to hurt the county we're in. I think it's one of the greatest counties in the country. And I think it's generally run very well, and people in it are great. And it's just one of those things. But anyway, I had to deal with all of that in my heart. And I felt like in this dream, it's something we've all got to deal with. I know it was with me, but in the times that are coming, there were a lot of things done in the first American Revolution that were really evil on both sides. And, torturing of victims. And this was on both sides. And in wars and conflicts, it's usually that way. It cannot be that way with God's people. Now, you've heard the saying probably, with new levels come new devils. But the things you get away with in the outer court can get you killed in the holy place. That's true. And we've got to walk in a different level. But I think even with the most evil, and regardless of how perverted and evil these hordes become, we cannot hate them. We cannot want revenge against them. That's something we've got to really guard our hearts. We're called to even love our enemies. Of course, the greatest victory of all over any enemy, especially is trying to destroy our people, and especially targeting Christians and Jews, the greatest victory of all would be their salvation, their redemption. That's what we got to pray for. So anyway, the end of this dream was total, complete victory. But it didn't come until I was clean inside. I think I was a symbol. I think I was there as a representative. It wasn't me. It was, I think, where we've got to come to. They had nothing to tempt me with. There was nothing that in any way I was drawn to, and therefore somehow that made a connection with heaven. Now we can deal with this evil. And that's where it says in 2 Chronicles 7:14, first he says, if my people, he didn't say the heathen, he says my people will humble themselves first. God gives us grace to the humble. It's the first thing we got to do. And I think we start humbling ourselves by repenting of our sin, acknowledging the evil that's in us, the revenge that's in us. When this attack came on, in Paris and recent things, it's hard not to just become outraged and want to do the same thing to them. No, that's not the answer for us. Now, the military or the civil governments, that is their answer. They've got to take vengeance, because Romans 13 says, all authority is given by God. It's talking about civil governments, civil authorities, and they're not given the sword for nothing but to avenge evil. And so the sword was military power. That was the weapon of the day. And for civil governments to be obedient to God, they have to use that military power to avenge evil. They would be in rebellion not to do that. But as Christians, I believe we have got to say, no, we've got to pray for them. We've got to love them. We've got to, if we're a Christian soldier, when we're on duty, we got to use those carnal weapons. That's the authority we're under. When we're off duty, we should be praying, interceding, even for our enemies. And these are things that a lot of people have conflicts with. There are a lot of people that can only see black or white. They can't see distinctions. That's why Paul said, you've got to behold now the kindness and the severity of God. A lot of people can only see one or the other. They can't see both. We've got to. Those who can only see one or the other are those who are called untaught and unstable, who distort, it says, even the scriptures to their own destruction. And when you can only go off on one extreme. So we need to understand these things now. When I'm saying to you, we've got to start praying for these people. We've got to start praying for the very ones who want to destroy us. I believe there's got to be concerted, focused, offensive, spiritual warfare that is every bit as focused, as strategic, as wise as anything done in the natural to stop this. And I believe we would see a lot of incredible victories we're not expecting if we will do that. If the church will do that, now's the time to start praying. Psalm 32 says, and don't wait until the floods come. It says, pray to him in a time when he may be found, for surely in a flood of great waters they shall not reach him. So now's the time to start praying for these things. But these things are coming. I was shown a certain timetable when I was given the first dream, that if by the end of 2014 there was not consistent, decisive steps taken to secure our southern border, especially, we need to secure all borders, but especially our southern border, we've got to get ready for this to happen. I do believe it is now coming. I believe they're pouring across our border right now, people with very evil intent to do much harm to America. We've got to start praying. We've got to get the watchmen on the walls. We've got to get the discernment. We've got to have those words of knowledge, again, that would thwart these attacks, these terrorist attacks, and things like that. We've got to rise to a whole new level of the prophetic revelation and everything else that is needed. But we've got a light that overcomes darkness, that will overcome any darkness. So you're going to be hearing more about practical preparation from me. Some things I believe I've been shown that we need to do to get ready. I've already talked about some of our previous Prophetic Perspectives programs since I started having these dreams, but now's the time to get ready, and there is some natural preparation too. But, we, above all things, we're told when all this starts to happen, it's harvest time. The end of the age is the harvest. And we need to focus 10 times more on what God is doing than we do what the devil's doing. When I get these dreams, I'm going to share them with you. We got to be, knowledgeable and of the devil's schemes. Don't be ignorant of them. Want to understand, want to be prepared for them. Being prepared is half of what happens to thwart them. Just speaking out about them can just send light out that stops the devil, because he hides in darkness. Just exposing him in the darkness and exposing his evil plans sometimes can stop it. But I believe this horde is right now coming across our border. And I believe it's going to start manifesting. It'll manifest some in 2015, but I believe it's going to be a relatively peaceful year. Another year to get ready. But these things are coming. But we have the victory. And he always leads us in his triumph. So don't ever forget that. Now, in the coming programs, we'll be talking more about the practical preparation that's already going on all over the country. It has amazed me to the degree that so many are already getting it and already getting prepared. But don't do it in fear. Do it in faith. And don't do it out of vengeance. Even when it talks about civil governments avenging evil, it doesn't mean they do it in hatred, do it in the wrong spirit. Satan can't cast out Satan. Jesus said, if I cast out demons with the Spirit of God, then the kingdom of God has come upon you. So let's abide in the kingdom, and we need to rise up in the authority to cast out demons by the Spirit of God, because they are being released against us. But guess what? We have one who's above all authority and power and dominion living in us. It's only going to get more exciting, and we're just going to see bigger victories because of the bigger battles. Thank you.
On TV, online, on the go, and on your iPad. Tune into Prophetic Perspectives with Rick Joyner, always available on MorningStarTV.com.